No.
Is it too late?
No.
You give me a little tour?
Sure.
Are you Mary?
Yes, why?
Because it says Mary's house.
Oh, no, no. Come in. No, I'm not Mary. I'm Angela. Sorry.
You're Angela. But you'll give the tour?
Sure. Nice to meet you.
I'm Gino.
Gino.
Gang. From Nantucket.
Okay.
Is it okay that I videotape you?
Sure.
Good.
Scarecrows are used to illustrate children's books. And the children's books are about this house. And it's set in the 30s, 40s, and so on. And they're about people who my grandmother told me about who lived here or who visited here often and things that happened. And we're also about heritage, how important it is to be able to have a relationship with someone and talk with someone. And even though technology is great, and we think technology is wonderful, and computers are great, but if you can't carry on a conversation with human relationships, then you're never ever going to get anywhere, because you can't go to a computer and say, look, I heard. So really, technology should free us up to have better human relationships. So that's what we're all about our heritage, realizing that our memories are so important, our heritage is important, and developing the ability to tell stories and understand people. My grandfather built this for my grandmother. This is the old pantry. This is the medicine cabinet. And nothing was put here. Everything that's here is here because it was here. This is Mohawk Indian remedy. It was called rattlesnake oil. It was good for headache, earache, toothache, neuralgia, and now we're into the homeopathic remedies.
Right.
And a lot of these things are the original ingredients. So the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Now, did she write children's books?
No, I did.
You do?
Yeah.
And so you've used kind of your grandma's spirit to...
It's the stories that she told me.
Oh, I see.
And the stories that happened, like I said, concerning this house. So they're about this house, so everything that's in the books are described in the house, and nothing has been brought here. Nothing is artificial. It's all real. If I say that the grandma went to the medicine cabinet and got something, well, the medicine cabinet is here. Or if I say she used the bread pan is there. Or if she went to the wood stove, there it is. There's nothing in any of my books that somebody can come and say, well, show me, and I can say, well, I'm sorry, it's not here. It is here because it's true.
And these were stories that were passed down to you by your grandma.
Right, and my grandmother was a very deep thinking person, and a lot of the stories touch on children's issues. My grandmother loved children. They touch on children's issues, everything from you don't have to be beautiful to be loved, to everybody is worthwhile, and all those issues. You know, the thing about, we have central heating, the thing about central heating is that it warms your skin, and yes, you're warm, but when you put this on and get a wood stove going, you're warm right to the bone. This cabinet was ordered from this catalog in 1934, and it was $32.50. Hard to believe, isn't it?
Wow.
And they made payments on it. In here is the dining room, sitting room. This was given to my grandmother by her parents for her wedding present. And on top there is a cocoa set that was very, very old that was given to her by her grandmother. And our organ is celebrating, you can help us celebrate 100 years. It was guaranteed for 5 years. Do you have a favorite hymn?
Is Kenny the husband?
Kenny's my husband.
Great.
I thought when you...
What do you do, Kenny, for a living? What do you do?
We're both retired.
Yeah.
You're both retired?
We're both retired.
How could you retire at 35?
Who said we were 35?
I'm just guessing.
We're 32.
Good for you. So you live just an easygoing life, writing stories?
Well, writing stories and having the scarecrows, and we're very busy in our church. Very nice, Kenny. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This was always dear to my heart, and I always wanted to retire and come and do children's stories. In the parlor, I have to tell you before you get in there, the only reason you're allowed in there is if you're courting, and you can bring your beau in there, but you have to sit that far apart on a couch. And every 5 minutes somebody comes in and checks on you to make sure that you are that far apart. And if somebody proposes, you better say yes, because if you don't, it might be a long time before somebody gets close enough to ask again. If it's Christmas, then you get to go in and see the tree, get your present, and come out. If somebody passes away, it used to be long ago that there weren't funeral parlors, so people would be laid out in the parlor. Sometimes people say to me, that's horrible. But actually today, I think that sometimes we have something I call a McFuneral. Somebody passes away, people fly in from all over the world, and relatives and so on. The will has already been made, the funeral arrangements are already been made, everything is done. People fly in, they're there for 2 days, it's all over, and the person who has lost their wife or their brother or sister, whatever, they're sitting there saying, where is everybody? Because everybody has been hugging, kissing, saying, oh, we have to stay together, they're gone. And this person is grieving, they don't even know what happened. So I think the idea of having a wake or a grief period is not barbaric, it's very civilized. And when you see all the centers coming up in Halifax and all over the province, grief centers, if these people were allowed to grieve in a natural way, we wouldn't have to be paying people to man these grief centers.
So did that happen a lot, often in this parlor?
Oh yes.
It did. Mm-hmm.
And it's in working order.
Where did you guys meet?
When I wrote my first book, it was called The Scarecrows of Nikamtaw, and I decided, I was alone at that time, I wasn't married. And I thought, well, what would I want my husband to be like? So I made him up, tall, musical, shy, a man who would live mostly in the woods all his life, because I like somebody who experienced things new and, you know, doesn't have a blasé attitude. And about 2 years later, I met him in the flesh. He even looks like the scarecrow that I made of Jonathan. So it was sort of like reality imitating fantasy.
This is your grandmother's sun porch?
Yes.
This is the way she kept it?
Yes, it is. Nothing is changed. Nothing was ever allowed to be changed. World without end. Amen. God help the person who moves so much as a cushion. Did you know when I saw you drove in, I said your vehicle looked like a lemon pie on wheels? This is Grandpa's sun porch. And a little girl, last week, I said, this is Grandpa's sun porch, and she peeked in, she said, oh, aren't you going to bury him? In the book, it talks about Aunt Mary getting out her wedding dress from the tramp room and giving it to Mary Lou, who was going to be getting ready in this room for her wedding, which would take place in the garden downstairs. Hopefully on an evening that wasn't quite this foggy. And this is Aunt Mary's room. And she made this when she was 14. She probably had a lot of help from her mother, perhaps her grandmother, and so on. But when she was growing up, little girls were brought up to believe that you were going to find a husband, have a home, and bring up children, and that was pretty much what little girls were going to do. Mm-hmm. If you went somewhere to teach, it was while you were looking for a husband. If you went somewhere to nurse for a while, it was while you were looking for a husband. If you went into a home to look after the elderly, it was while you were looking for a husband. And if you went to a different community to teach or to nurse or to look after the elderly, it was while you were looking for a husband. If you reached 28 and you didn't have a husband, then you were...
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Are there any ghosts here?
No.
Okay.
A lot of spooks, but no ghosts. The house has a lot of unusual things happen. There's definitely a spirit.
Yeah.
People have walked in and said, oh, I feel something so strong.
Oh, you definitely do.
Walking in here.
You can't help it.